Hello, we're so glad that you're going to be here today with us. We are going to be going over our winter solstice ceremony. So we're so thankful that you're here. This is going to be teach style. So we've got all guests and other people cameraed off and not attached to this recorded video. But if you'd like to be involved, you can be involved in the private chat that will not be included in the posted video. So, thank you so much for being here at our Winter Solstice live event. This is where we kick off the 16 Divine Nights, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So, do you want to open us up, Jamie?
Sure. I just would like for everybody to close their eyes and take a deep breath and just get centered. We're very thankful that you're here with us or watching this on the record. So, coming into the energies of the winter solstice and the sacredness of this time and finding and learning and discovering our own sacredness, we honor the winter solstice as we call upon the spirits of Yuletide and the ancient celebration of renewal, community, and the return of the sun. We call upon the earth, steady and grounding, to hold us in the sacred circle. We call upon the moon, waning in her wisdom to guide us in releasing what no longer serves us. We call upon the sun, poised at rebirth, to illuminate our intentions and dreams. And we call upon the sacred fire, the eternal spark within, to light our way forward. Yuletide energies, we welcome you. May your warmth and wisdom inspire us tonight as we reflect, release, realign with the cycles of nature and our highest selves. So be it.
So, if you'd like to call in just any of your own spirit guides, spirit animals, any kind of protections, cleansing, this would be a good time to do that. I always like to light a candle when I'm starting any kind of ceremony. So I'm just going to light mine really quick. And so winter solstice, let's talk a little bit about it. I think that this
So
winter solstice, go
it's
ahead.
December 21st, and it begins approximately at 10:03 Eastern time, and that marks the shortest day and the longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere. And this is a pivotal moment in time for the rebirth of the sun and the gradual return of the longer days, which I love. And it's the symbolizing of hope and renewal and rejuvenation. I think there's a piece, that piece is very important during especially like the next 16 divine nights, to just go inward, calm down, be quiet, and just bring in the beauty of the sacredness of the solstice. And if you've never done that, or maybe you already have a practice, that's great. I just think that this is when it's almost like the holiday that begins that sacred piece. And that's why I personally celebrate the winter solstice. This time is the time of profound reflection and intention setting, especially as I have come to celebrate this time of year. As the sun reaches its lowest point, it invites us to turn inward. We can look at the past year, see what works, what doesn't. Very good time to release what no longer serves us. It's almost like a spring cleaning of our internal self and actually integrating the shadow and light from our past year. And I think it's very important to engage in the energies of this time to do that. And it's a very good time to do that because the veil is thinner. We're more connected if we allow the space for connectedness to our higher self and our guides and guardians and angels and our whatever we pray to, whatever we talk to, whatever higher source we are connecting with. This is the time where the messages can come through loud and clear. So really having that a moment to align with those energies. And we're at the cusp of initiating new things. I mean, the new year is telling us we need to, you know, create from intention. And so, really good time to reflect on what didn't work. What
Hmm.
did I learn from all those experiences this past year? What worked? What do I want to have more of? What do I want to create new? So, aligning with the natural cycles, attuning to the earth's rhythms, and, creating a deeper connection with nature this time. And some of us live in the very cold, and some of us maybe don't, and finding a way to connect with nature. There's ways to bring that into the home if it's cold out. If you live in a warmer climate, good for you. Get out in nature, ground, put your feet in the dirt, put your feet in the grass, in the sand, wherever you're at, and just have a moment of reflection and connection. And then I really do believe the next 16 divine nights is the best time to use the solstice energy to set new intentions and goals and to carry over any goals that maybe you didn't reach this year. Because we have to remember that everything has a time and season to manifest in your life. And what we thought we could accomplish in the last year may have taught us what we can and what we cannot. And that's okay. But as long as we're taking the lessons from each one and using those lessons to move forward and reconnect with things that we're passionate with, and also to bring newness in.
I think, it's very specific kind of energy that we're feeling right now here in 2025. Today specifically is Mother's Eve for, the start of the 12 nights of Yule. And we're going to be moving into the winter solstice tomorrow. And I think that the winter solstice is really an important reminder of the non-Gregorian calendar. And the reason that I say this is, when we practice on a cycle nature or a rhythm nature more with the earth and how the moon and stars work in our ecosystem versus with the Gregorian calendar, we understand, much like many cultures, do who follow the lunar calendar, that there is the end of a year and then the lunar new year. And so in the Gregorian calendar, we are thinking that we need to begin to build into 2026. But in reality, this is the time when we need to be hibernating and spending our time doing things that animals would do in the winter. I was just having a conversation the other day about this idea that everybody is running onto the fire horse. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm just running into the fire horse. And, we're seeing a lot of people jumping on that and really excited. But, we're not in the fire horse yet. And even though the fire horse is a quick start, the fire horse still doesn't get to start the race until it gets to start the race. And so to begin running on our fire horse and being on the chariot of the horse that's going to pull us, we need to understand the preparation that comes into being on that chariot, the preparation that comes into being on that, on that horse. That horse did not come prepared for the race. The horse had to be prepared for the race. It had to
Absolutely.
be taught that how to run the race. It had to be taught how to sit in the, space where it was going to be before it was let go. The what do they call those? The area where the horse go in with the little footmen, and they
Right.
open, right?
Mhm.
So right now we are not even at the opening of the fire horse, you guys. We're still back in the barn training the
Yeah.
horse. We're massaging the horse. We're making sure that the horse is having enough rest and enough of everything that it needs so that when the Lunar New Year comes in the end of February, we are able to start the race. But we haven't even brought the horse to the racehorse yet, to the place.
Racetrack. Mhm.
So, that brings me back to like, what would the snake be doing right now? Well, the snake would be doing just what Jamie talked about, right? It would be hibernating, it would be reflecting, it would be spending that time in dreamland, and it would be getting quiet and it would be doing less. And so, doing more is not the option right now. It's really important to try to do less, try to call in the sacredness and holiness of this time. And so, there are reasons and history to winter solstice specifically. So let's talk a little bit about that before we move on, just so that we don't miss that part.
Right. So the significance throughout history, the winter solstice has been celebrated. This is a traditionally s- human societies have absolutely honored each turn of the season, and this is a big one for a lot of different societies. In ancient Rome, they had a week long festival honoring Saturn because Saturn returns, and they have feasts and they do gift giving, and they would have role reversals, and they were reflections and renewal. And even during this time, there were bouts of disrest, guess I should say, unrest, where societies then would plan how they would take back their power in a sense. So, but with their government or whatever. So I like to mention that because we're in a time where we can reflect and take our power back. Where did we leak our power during this past year? Where did we lose sight of who we were? Where did we veer off track? And how can we put ourselves back on the track? How can we lead our new lunar? Stacey and I like to just preface all that's going to happen in the ceremony with the New Year is very important to us personally, but also learning about the energies of all the different cultures and New Year's and different practices that come from different winter solstices, including prepping for the change of the lunar New Year's. Are leaving the year of the snake, and we do have a PowerPoint and presentation and YouTube video about that. Did not even have any knowing about it, go back to that, watch that video. You might be very surprised at how it related to your life this year, coming to the end of it, because it's very significant and the energies do fuel each lunar year. So we're coming into the year of the horse. And so that's why that conversation began. And it's really important to all of us to remember that this time of year we're pulled in many directions, especially if you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, or you have any kind of religious celebration that you do this time of year, that we're pulled in many directions and it becomes fast paced and it becomes exactly what it shouldn't be. But we have the power to bring it back, to pull it back. And that's what the next 16 divine nights are for us and what we've created for our lives. And so going back to how it's historically celebrated in Scandinavia, it was Yule. And I actually do this practice. I know Stacey does too. And they would create a Yule log literally out of wood and they would ordain it with the decorations, but usually they were of natural sort. They would put candles on it, or they would take the whole Yule log and burn it in their fireplace or the fire pit as a celebration of the returning of the lights. In Asia, it was celebrated. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the celebration, but they would have family gatherings and make special foods, and then they would um, celebrate the increased positive energy. Excuse me. That happens when we start to have longer days, and sun is our fuel as humans, and it creates a positive emotions in our body when we utilize the sun for therapy. And so that, generally that's how people celebrated in East Asia. And then apparently Stonehenge was also a monument that was designed and aligned with the sunset on winter solstice, which is pretty amazing to me. And so it really did signify how this particular solstice that had so much power and intention in many societies. And I think it's been lost over the years, and we're just here to bring it back some of the ideas and the transformation and the beautiful qualities that the solstice has for people. So that
So,
was that. Yeah.
yeah, so we just want to invite you to do some journaling or quiet contemplation. And so, if you want to pause us, if you're watching this later, you can do that. Right now, we're just going to give these questions and then you can go ahead and journal with them. So, what am I complete with? What in this last year have I been able to complete with? And
Can you put that on the screen real quick? Can you add?
yes, we suggest that you do this, for yourself, like for a few days. Don't just
Yeah.
ask yourself these questions for one day. Really, spend a few days contemplating and being with some of these questions. What skins no longer fits? You could even ask yourself, what skins did I release this year? What new skins did I step into? And then what truth did this year show me? And so, really, just spending some time over the next few days. These are the holy and sacred nights within many religions and many cultures. And so, this is really great time to be able to bring that sacredness and that holiness into your life. And one of the great ways to do that is to just light a candle and give yourself some journal time every day. And so we like to start with a few days of, reflecting and spending time really just processing through and understanding how this last year went. And then That way we can understand what it is we want to call into the new year. We don't want to call things into the new year that we no longer are serving us, or no longer part of our story, or no longer part of our dream. And so that brings us to the next part, which is endings. I think a lot of times, I was even having this conversation today with one of our parents. We stay stuck to an idea, an old idea. If I can just pay off my house, then I'll be good, maybe, is a great idea, an example that we often have. And sometimes because we're not willing to put down that story or that idea or that dream that we had many, many years or eras ago, we stay stuck in a current situation that we don't have to be stuck in. If we would just realize that actually the dream is bigger than that, the opportunity is bigger than that, the idea is bigger than that. We don't have to stay stuck on this one thing. And then we begin to understand, oh, wait, that was 30 years ago when my house was worth 100. What if I sold it and took it and did something with it? There's these aspects that open up when we can think in a broader way, and when we're also thinking about ourselves. And so that brings us to my second point, which is sometimes as we get older, we get so used to fighting that we begin to think that we should stop fighting and comply. Too old to fight that anymore. But if there's no one fighting for you, then it is important that you fight for yourself. And fighting for yourself means that you take a good look at where you're at and what you're calling in. You don't continue to sit in something that you called in 20 years ago that no longer serves you. And that means that there may be endings in that situation. Relationships, houses sold, people move, jobs changed, right? That's just part of the process when we are really sitting in the aspect of being able to look at, okay, it's okay. So my third point is it's okay to change the dream. Change it. And then as you change it, remember to look and see what in my old dream is still in my new dream that I need to get rid of. What in my old dream is needing to be shed or let go of. And I think sometimes that can be really hard because it will happen for us or we can make it happen. It's that idea that if I need to leave from my job and I'm getting to the point where, for example, in human design as a generator, I get frustrated. If I'm frustrated all the time and I'm not living in satisfaction, I know something's wrong. And I start talking to people and telling people about all these things that I'm frustrated about and I'm not liking. Then I know that I'm in an old dream. I have a new dream now that I need to pop onto. And if I don't make those decisions myself, then things will begin to happen that make those decisions for me. And so I have to choose to change, right? Now I can change in a lot of ways. I can change the ways at that job that I approach myself. So then maybe I don't feel like I need to quit anymore. Maybe I can change a position or something at that job, right? There's things like that you can do. It's not about not being able to change some of your circumstances,
It's a
but
pivot.
but it's about remembering that you are at the center of your dreams. So it's important to look at them and assess them and ask yourself if you still are a part of that old dream. And then if you're not, lovingly say goodbye with gratitude and
Mhm.
love. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for all you've done. Bye. So, blessing that, sacred words, closing up any of those sacred endings that you need to close up. That's a really important part of this hibernation period because in order to hibernate, we also have to kind of tear away a little bit and release. So, this is really more of a time of waiting, sitting back, cleansing, clearing, cleansing, clearings, cleansing, clearing. It's not really a time of go, 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 do, do, do. Because in that sitting back, in that cleansing, in that clearing, we're giving time and space for the dream to be created, to be mustered over, to be heard and seen. And when we're just focused on the go, go, do, do, we're not allowing the creation to come into play. And sometimes that even means we're not allowing our own gifts to be heard because, we're just go, go, do, do. So it's a great time to reflect, slow down, and decide what it is that you're calling into the next year. And, if sometimes you look at your life and you're like, I couldn't possibly say no to any of my kids for these 15 sports that they play, then I want you to assess whether It's really that important. Can you pick one to slow down your family a little bit, to be able to enjoy a little bit more each other and aspects of each other without teaching our kids or ourselves and our spaces to just stay so busy all the time that we don't know what's going on from day to day because we don't know where we're supposed to be or what we're doing because we're just so crazy busy, you know?
Right.
And so we don't have a lot of control over that sometimes, but we can have control over those aspects. And I think sometimes we make up excuses like, my kid wants to do this thing, so it's important that I keep pushing myself all week long to do these 15 activities. When in reality, we as the parent can say, no, you get to pick one activity and we're going to go do
Mhm.
that because I also matter in this scenario. And when I'm teaching you to go, 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 I'm teaching myself to go, go, go. I'm not actually teaching us how to slow down and breathe and process and create and have a whole rhythm and cycle to the way that we live our life.
Right. And that's when taking time during the season to even just be quiet, that there's nothing new can come in if you're filling all your time in your mind space. Nothing new can come in. And if the opportunities show up and they're glaring, but you're so busy and wrapped up in all the things that you plan for your life for that in that week or whatever, it's easy to miss those opportunities. So this is a practice that actually can be used all year, but what it's going to teach you by slowing down and saying no and teaching your children to really slow down and not have to be at every event, opportunity for divine intervention, find guidance, and um, having a moment to connect because we can connect every Sunday in church. But if the rest of our week is absolutely jam packed and your mind space is full of agendas and places and things you got to do, when does spirit come in? Just on
Mhm.
Sunday? What about the rest of the week?
I think that also has to do with, all the things we do. Like if I'm going in and I'm only doing guided meditations, but I'm not doing silent meditations to listen, then I'm really only praying, right? I'm really only asking. I'm really only chasing, but I'm not sitting and enjoying the presence of what I am and what I'm in. I'm
Right.
going and running after something that isn't always going to be um in my best interest because I'm not giving that time. And this is why I think it's important sometimes to look at animals, right? Like animals hibernate. They're not working through
Integrate.
winter. There's something to be said about working so that we can have a nice winter, right? And so, just looking at those pieces. So, okay, we are going to kind of change gears a little bit and we're going to tell you a story. I believe that stories are really important when we are ceremonial or when we are looking at celebration because they hit our soul in a way that a lot of times our mind doesn't. And so I would, say, hey, go get like a cup of tea and sit down and make sure you're warm and cuddly. And I'm going to tell you a story about Winter Solstice Eve.
Okay.
So if you want to pause this and come back, you can. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and share the story. The night the light was remembered. At the longest night of the year, when the earth rests in her deepest dark, the women gathered, not because they were broken, but because something ancient in them stirred. They arrived carrying tired bones, full calendars, quiet griefs, and the subtle ache of knowing they had been strong for too long. The world had taught them. You see, the world had taught them to push through winter, to decorate over it, to rush past it, but the earth had other plans. From the edge of the forest, from the place where roots coil and wisdom sleeps, she came. The old one, the keeper of rhythms and seasons, the crone, the wise one who was seen at every ending and never once feared the dark. Her hair shimmered like frost in the moonlight, and her eyes, they held the patience of a stone and soil. She didn't carry a torch, only a quiet knowing. She looked at the women before her and the women after her and gently said, You are not behind. You are not lost. You are enough. You are wintering. You are preparing. You are weeding and preparing the land. And she knelt and pressed her palm into the earth, and beneath her hand a soft glow appeared. Not a blaze, not a demand, but an ember. This is how the light returns, she whispered. This is how the light returns, she whispered. This is how the light returns, she said. Not by force, not by striving, but by remembering, by being remembered, by slowing down. She invited each of the women to come closer, and she asked them to lay down. And as they lay down, she began to pray over them in only the way that a wise woman in crone could. She said, "What is finished?" And she asked them to lay it down. Lay down the old skins, she said. Lay down the old expectations, she said. The old versions of yourselves that have not done their job. And she reminded them. She reminded them of the forgotten things, the warmth of candlelight, the joy of simply playing, the holiness of rest, the power of shared laughter in the dark. And as she began to look at each of them, their breath began to breathe together, in and out and in and out, as the women began to sway. They began to hum low songs of remembrance. Their body remembered, their soul remembered. Their presence was due here in this spot, and this presence, in this grounding on this earth. And as they humbly hummed and as they softened the ember, it grew brighter, steadier, calmer, more alive than before. And as the old one stood before them, sharing her energy, she knew and asked for them to sit and stand before her and promise. The dawn was coming, the shimmering of the dawn and the sun. But until then, she reminded them that each of them have an ember to carry with them, as she handed them a piece to their heart. And as she put that ember into their heart, she said, "The light does not return all at once, and neither do you, dear sister. But remember, it will return because you have welcomed it." And with that, she stepped back with a kiss on their forehead and back into the trees, leaving behind her warmth and the quiet certainty that the sun was already on its way home, knowing that what she brought is a reminder of the ember in each of us and the ember in you that we get to carry and we get to tend to as we're by the fire. And as we carry that ember and we tend to our fire, we're able to help others tend to theirs. This time is to tend to your fire so it can be bright. And as she left, she said, "You will remember." They all knew tomorrow they would wake with winter solstice light. You want to just take a few deep breaths, allow. We're just going to sit quietly for a few moments and allow the embodiment of the wise woman tending to her fire to help us remember to tend to us. And now Jamie is going to bring us through a practice for the season.
During this time, and Stacy practice what's called 16 Divine Nights. It's an opportunity for us to intentionally slow down and listen to our guidance, listen to the messages we need for the upcoming year. And we spend the first two nights or so preparing for the guidance. And then we go into the actual receiving of the guidance each night. And each day and night of this process, we will receive downloads for each month of the upcoming year. So for instance, one night we journal, we ask for guidance, we sleep. Whatever comes up that day is meant for us to take heed and notice for that month of January, February, and then March. So on and on it goes. And we have this program called 16 Divine Nights. So if you would like to join us on this journey, this ceremony that we have done today is the opening ceremony for our 16 Divine Nights. And it only costs $16. We made it so that everyone can join in with us. And then we will have a closing ceremony at the end, similar to what we're doing here on Zoom. And you can join us live. But one of the biggest things that the takeaways from this season and important things to consider, in my opinion, is that we are first reflecting on our past years. So, what does that look like? It looks like what we talked about. What moments of growth or transformation am I most grateful for this year? Where did I find challenges and how did I handle them? And what were the lessons they taught me? What motions, habits, and patterns am I ready to release this year as it comes to a close? So these are ways to just dig deep and have reflection for the past year because we as a society have a tendency to start new goals, fresh dreams January 1st. So this is to help clear out the old, take in the lessons, receive any information and learnings that we can from that time, and then release all that no longer serves us. So, one of the practices that I do to release what no longer serves me is I like to take a piece of paper, do these journal questions. And you could put those up. They're on page, I don't know what page this is. It's the reflection on the past year slide. But you do the reflections. You do what you write the questions down and answer them as succinctly as you can. What I mean by that is you just allow yourself to free write the answers because you'll be surprised at what comes up for you. May not be what you thought they would be, releasing what no longer serves you. And then what I like to do is I will take a piece of paper and I will write them as a list. Just keep writing all the things I want to release, even things that maybe I want to release that will take time, won't happen overnight. That's okay. Any of it. And then I personally rip them up and then I throw them away. Or you could rip them up and burn them, or you could rip them up and bury them in an area in your garden where you put things that you are giving back to the earth because you were
Like a
done.
compost.
Yes, so you're done and you want to transform it. So that would be exactly how I would do that. And then so I one of the practices that I do is I do this process and then when I'm done with this process, I do another process where I take a piece of paper and I write down, I cut it into strips. You don't have to be exact. You can rip it into 13 strips. And on each one, I'm going to write down maybe a goal or something I'd like to manifest or even an emotion I'd like to feel more of on each one of those strips. So, for instance, I'll give you some examples. I'd like to take 2 cruises in 2026, so I would write that on one strip. I would like to bring more fun in my life, joyful, playful, fun, laughter. So I'll write that on one of them. And then on and on I go. Then I have business goals. Then I have personal goals. And I write them down, each one, and I fold them up and I put them in a pretty dish or bowl. And I pray over them. I bless them. I send my good energy. I'm going to spend some time just really allowing them to come into my consciousness in a visual form, even if they don't necessarily all make it into my brain at the same time, that's okay. And then each night or day you choose or morning, you reach into your bowl and you grab one for the first 12 days. And you're going to take that slip of paper, you're not going to read it, and you're going to rip it up, bury it in the place where you're in your garden where maybe you want to grow something. So, a garden where you're growing food or growing flowers, or you can burn it and you're just going to release it, whatever it is, and you're not going to know what it is. And you're going to do that for 12 days until you're at the last day and you have the last strip. And that last strip then becomes my responsibility to work on for the year. And the other strips have been given to our higher power, God, the universe, the great goodness, however you receive higher holy intentions and guidance. And they are going to, or he or she or whomever is going to help in the manifestation of those things that you put on those strips that you didn't pick as your last. So that 13th strip, then say it's okay, 2 cruises in 2026. Well, then that's what I focus on And I find a way to make that happen for myself because we didn't come to earth to just spend time in the spirit realm and meditation and in contemplation, reflection. That's a cycle. It's part of our human cycle in manifestation and creation of the life that we want. But we also have to take action. Earth is about action, it's about aligned action. And the more you can release and the more you can trust that it is done for you, the more energy you have to create and take action and follow the guidance that you receive. So that is why instead of having 13 goals that I'm actively working on every day and making plans for, I'm choosing one. And actually, your inner guidance is choosing it. And then you know that all the rest are done. They are done and they are in your timeline. So it's a really powerful practice. It's very simple. I want to just share that with you. I personally would love for all of you to join us on 16 Divine Nights and go through the deeper processes. But if you are short on time or you just want something simple, this is a very simple way to activate your coming year in a very intentional, loving, and trusting spiritual way. You have anything to add to that, Stacey?
No, I love it.
Okay, cool.
I would even say you could do like, just 12 words. Like I often give myself a word for the year. And so, 12 words, and then that word becomes the word for the year. So, I mean, there's lots of ways you can kind of take that and do it, but it is a great little practice. So, fun gift. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time left. We've got about 15 minutes. So we wanted to give you some ways that you can celebrate winter solstice. Candles, light, anything that's calling in the light is a great way to call in winter solstice. We already talked about the Yule log. We like to do a winter spiral at our house. So we'll set up a winter spiral of evergreens or of stones or of shells. And we'll invite our friends and family over to walk the winter spiral. And our winter spiral, we have apples, and there'll be a candle in the apple. And there is in the middle of the spiral one candle that is lit. And then everybody walks through the spiral to the middle, lights their candle, and walks out. And as they walk out, they put their candle down along the spiral. And when everybody's done, with the winter spiral, you have this beautiful lit up spiral that shows that my little ember and your little ember, when together in, this quiet stillness, make a very beautiful bright light. And so it's one of my favorite ways to celebrate with others. So you can make that big and celebrate it with others, or you can make that small and do it within yourself. Maybe you want to make a little spiral on your table and you want to light some candles around it for the next 12 days and be able to just celebrate the sacredness and holiness of what we are walking into, just in the world in our own unique way. And so any way that you can find that just honors calling in the light, having candles around. This is also a really important time for processing. Like Jamie was saying earlier, the veils are thin. So it's a great time to do some of those grounding practices. So one of our favorite grounding practices is to move. So remember that you are a body, that you have movement. And so if you are moving a lot or if you're not moving at all, a good practice is really just to put on music and begin to dance and allow your body to move. If you are going to bother people in your home with that, put on some headphones with music and dance, but allow yourself one whole song to just feel and dance and try to do that every day until maybe the Lunar New Year and see how you feel, see how it changes, your persona on a day-to-day basis. Does it help you have more fun? Does it help you process things? Where, can this lightheartedness of just dancing with no rules or rhythm to it, just going, fill your heart a little bit? And so, normally sometimes during these, I would give you a full on practice body movement, but I think right now it's really just about listening to yourself, moving and allowing just that aspect of moving again to come into, your body in a way that feels right. But winter's also about slowing down and resting. So, it's about taking in those quieter moments. And January really isn't the great time to go get a gym pass. That really should happen more like March 1st because that energy is still very much quiet, slower momentum. This is the officialness of winter. We're officially in winter now. So, let's finish that winter and that year off with moving our bodies in a lighthearted way, calling in the light, and stepping into preparation for what we're going to bring to the race, right? What are we bringing to the horse race? Right now is that preparation. And if you've run already to the race and you haven't sat in any of that preparation, that race can be a lot harder for you.
Mhm. It will. And that brings up a very good point with the body and preparation for the year of the horse. The horse is a very active animal. The horse medicine is very intense in the way that it's single focused and charging forward, and it has one goal. And for this particular upcoming year, that leaves me to believe that in order to prep for the year of the horse, maybe we do need to focus on our bodies and better care of our physical state. So if you find yourself in a place where your health or your healing journey, it has been a big part of your consciousness in the last, however long for you as it has for me, then listening, it's even more important now to be quiet and listen to your inner guidance on how to better support your body
Mhm.
for the energies of the next year so that you don't stumble and have any type of um, hindrance to the momentum you can build. That doesn't mean I'm saying you have to heal your body in 16 divine nights. No, it means allowing divine guidance so that you can make changes to support your body, and rest is super important for any healing journey. And if you already have trouble with that piece, sleeping, or you're just overly busy and not paying attention, just moving or dancing, as Stacey suggested each day, is actually very therapeutic and will help you become more embodied and listening more to your body. Activating your body is the probably the only way to discover what it needs to heal. So, breath work, breathing, taking nice, deep, slow breaths and really focusing on your breath and movement. And if it's hard for you to move, just move a little bit and just acknowledge your body. Acknowledge that in order to have our hopes and dreams be a part of our reality, our body has to be tended to in some capacity. And so don't ignore your body. So during the quietness, during the restful time, during this time that we are going inward and hibernating, we're also in tune with our body. So remember that piece.
All right. So we're just going to finish our winter solstice with some gratitude. So if you'd like to just take your hands and put them on your heart, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just be able to breathe 3 deep breaths here, however feels right to you. And I just want to thank you so much for being here and being present. And I just want to remind you of the light that you carry within. So if you can just take a deep breath and the reminder of your light
Mhm.
and how you share it with others. Let us know what else you'd like us to do next. What other ceremonies or rituals would you like to learn about? Comment below. And thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Bye.